I began investigating it with some other folks who were concerned about water quality and water quantity in our state, and that's what brought us to this. This amendment was created through citizens' petition. The requisite number of citizen signatures were required, and that allowed it to be on the ballot, and that was confirmed last fall. Basically, what this amendment does, as Jean Ann said, the description is Water and Land Conservation Initiative. And the summary is the funds of the Land Acquisition Trust Fund to acquire, restore, improve, and manage conservation lands, including wetlands and forests, fish and wildlife habitat, lands protecting water resources and drinking water sources, including the Everglades, and the water quality of rivers, lakes, streams, beaches, and shores, outdoor recreational lands, working farms and ranches, and historic and geological sites by dedicating 33% of net revenues from existing excise tax on documents for 20 years. That's what this amendment does. It basically takes 33% of dock stamp revenues, writes that budget item into our Constitution for 20 years. It removes it from the discretion of the legislature. The first year's estimated revenue is over $500 million. The 20th year estimated revenue is over $1 billion. The total revenue is estimated at around $19 billion. Now, as I said before, be aware that this amendment writes those funds into our state constitution, removing it from the discretion of our legislatures, no matter what happens in our state economically for 20 years. I mean, if we have a 100-year storm, if we have a terrorist attack in Orlando, if we have who knows what's going to happen in our state economically. Let's say we have another event like we had in 2009, where the legislature scrambled from every revenue stream to balance our budget, which is required in our state every year. So there's some fiscal impact here, some negative fiscal impact if this amendment passes. Now, the most egregious part of this amendment in my mind is this. The supporters of this amendment have stated that the reason why this proposal is brought forth as a constitutional amendment is because its language provides a bonding mechanism to borrow the projected $19 billion now. And the reason why the supporters of this amendment want to do that is because the land that they want to acquire, they don't think it's going to be available in 20 years. And they want to acquire it now. Again, taxpayers will be on the hook for that money, to pay back that money, regardless of what our economic conditions are in our state. Now, what happens when you take private property off of the tax rolls and you put it into government ownership? It no longer produces tax revenue. How does that affect this county? I mean, right now in Lake County, 22% of the land in this county, in fact, there's estimates even more than that, is in conservation. So, as this Land Acquisition Trust Fund receives all of this money, if this amendment passes, they are going to go about and acquire as much land as they can, as soon as they can. And the county tax revenues are going to be diminished. What do county tax revenues fund? Schools and services. the biggest hit's going to be the schools. I talked briefly at the school board meeting this past Monday, that, letting them know that, in my opinion, their tax base is going to be diminished if this passes. It could very well be under assault. And I consider the purpose of this amendment to be a non-essential government service. I, for one, am raising my hand up and saying, I do not want my taxes increased to again pay for non-essential government services. We've just fought that battle with the county commission here in this county. So if you look at other counties in the state right now that do have a large portion of conservation land, you look at Monroe County has 97% of its property. 97% of its property is in conservation today. They pay the highest taxes. You look at Collier, Franklin counties, same thing. So county governments will be impacted, I think, severely. And the advocates for this amendment, that's the first words out of their mouth. This does not raise taxes. And they're saying that only because a documentary stamp taxes already currently exist. So it's not a new tax. It's diverting existing taxes. That money's going to have to be made up someplace else. Right now, dock stamps primarily fund transportation, economic development, and affordable housing. Those are the primary purposes for dock stamp revenue. Right now, our state legislature, Jimmy can state this, the environmental groups, conservation projects, I think it was about $300 million this past legislative session. There was about $300 million dedicated to environmental conservation, and this was at the discretion of the legislature. Now, a lot of these supporters of this amendment are saying that back in 2009, our money was cut down. We didn't get all the money we wanted. Nobody did in 2009. So another reason is they want a dedicated revenue stream going forward. Lynn, tell me when I'm done, if you could.
You have 4 more minutes.
4 more minutes? Basically, the bottom line for me is that this amendment reduces the amount of revenue-producing property. It reduces your revenue in the counties, and it's a non-essential government service that's already being provided for via our legislature, via our representative voice. If we don't like what the legislature does, guess what? At least we have a voice. If we vote yes on Amendment 1, we put this in our Constitution, it's a done deal for 20 years. It's a done deal for 20 years. So those are some of my thoughts on Amendment 1. I am of the view that vote no on Amendment 1. Yeah. I have flyers in the back. I have bumper stickers in the back. I have a Coalition for Property Rights analysis. There is no organized, just in closing, there is no organized effort, to oppose this right now. The folks that I've been working with, and many of them in this room, it's by word of mouth. Once people become aware of the negative impacts of passage of this, one other thing. It takes a 60% majority for this to pass. If we take 33%, let's say a third of the voters in this state that vote on November 4th are conservatives, they're going to get it all by themselves, right out of the chute. That means we only need 7% to defeat this. We only need 41% to oppose this amendment to defeat this. Spread the word. I've got bumper stickers, I've got flyers. Tell everybody you know some information that you've received here today. Vote no, Amendment 1. Thank you so much.
I have a question.
Yes.
Who is responsible for writing, sponsoring, and putting this amendment on?
Oh my gosh. There are many environmental groups. One of the lead advocates is former Governor, former Senator Bob Graham. I attended a forum at the Bob Graham Center in University of Florida on September 4th, a pro-con between the Florida Chamber and Senator Bob Graham, and that's where I learned about the bonding. There's a list right here. Any group, environmental group, conservation group you can think of are the supporters of this. They are well funded. They are well funded. There's a public relations group out of Boston they've spent almost $3 million to date to get this passed. We have work to do. Spread the word, spread the word. We still have time, and we only need 7%. We only need 7%. Thank you so much.